Book 1, Law of Salimi, Chapter 18, Law of Salimi, the Consultant. When Zul came to my room and requested my advice and tips that I could share with him, I shared with him everything that I ever knew about learning tactics. In fact, Zul was not the only student who had met me and asked for my tips about learning. Both male and female students came up to me and requested for me to share my tips to perform in academic and studies at UiTM campus Mangatal. As far as I can remember, I never refused, since from my side, I seemed always have a lot of free time to spare. The reason behind this was thanks to the fact that my study tactics for the second semester had been vastly improved. In doing so, I had a lot of free time which I used to visit lecturers' room and have a chat with them if they had time to spare. What I will focus on this chapter would be on the tips that I told most students. When a person asks me tips for studies, my answer varies depending on the person asking the question. I would do my best to customize and personalize my answer, which would best suit the plan for the person asking the question. Some students were male, while others were female. Some were Muslims and others might not. Hence, my answers were tailored specifically to their needs and practicability. It also depends on how much time that the person had to listen to my tips. If they had 30 minutes, I will give them the short version tips to study. If the student had a whole day, I will definitely tell the whole story on becoming the best student and walking the path of a scholar. So, in this chapter, since the reader had all the time in the world to read this book, I would prefer to share the long version on tips for becoming a great student. My tips here would be based on everything that I had already shared in earlier chapters, which explored how to behave during class and so forth. However, in this chapter, I will start from the very beginning of the journey to walk the path of a scholar. First, I would begin with the intention for learning knowledge. As a Muslim, Islam encourages all Muslims to learn as much as possible. Thus, for a Muslim, learning should be with the intention to gain knowledge towards understanding Islam, practice Islam as a way of life, and pursuit of peace, harmony, and goodness to all mankind. As a student, I study because I am passionate for learning and knowledge. I am now passionate for teaching and sharing knowledge. These attributes are in line with the teachings of Islam for the pursuit of knowledge, for the goodness of all mankind. When studying at your ITM campus Mangatal, my intention for studying is to gain knowledge and not to get a good result or the best CGPA in the campus. I told every student who asked, if you have the intention when studying, knowledge becomes easy to understand. As a Muslim, Allah the All-Knowing would assist you to understand much better and easier when you have the right intention to pursue knowledge. If you had the intention to learn in order to get good result and good salary in the future, that would be exactly what you get, instead of developing passion for knowledge. So the first thing that you need to walk the path of a scholar is the right intention towards learning and knowledge. My recommendation is to be passionate for learning and knowledge. By doing so, studying would be fun. Every new discovery and learning becomes exciting. You will enjoy every second of your learning process, which would mean years of awesome time during your lifetime. A part of that, if you are passionate, when you work on something that you are passionate about, your work no longer becomes a chore or even work. You would be doing everything that you love for every day in your life, and you also get paid for doing something that you love. This is exactly what happened to me as soon as I went to teach at a college. If anyone asked me about my job, I say, I am not sure. I just went to this place, I share my knowledge with students, and at the end of the month, and money was deposited in my savings account. To me, I am not working. I am having fun in my life and getting paid for it. Because of the passion for knowledge and teaching, I enjoy sharing knowledge with students and hated public holidays. Anyway, the first part of becoming a great student would be having the right intention towards learning. Develop the passion for knowledge, and studying becomes the most exciting thing in your study life. If you wish to determine whether you have passion for knowledge, ask yourself honestly, how would you feel if a lecturer cancelled your class? If you are jumping in happiness for not having to attend class, I reckon that you are not passionate towards learning. In my case, lecturer in my class rarely announce class cancellation if I'm around, because I would be angry hearing class cancellation. The second part of the tip is attitude during classes. For me, I sit in front of the class which is closest to the lecturer. It helps me to focus to every word the lecturer said. I never talk during class except when asking questions to the lecturer. If another student asked me to explain something, I would only explain after the class because I need to focus 100% during class. A part of that, I studied the chapter before class to ensure I could understand everything during class. If I had something that I do not understand, after reading before the class, I would ask the lecturer to explain them. If the lecturer do not have time to explain during class, set appointment to meet up after class for the lecturer to elaborate or explain the part that I do not understand. I would prefer to not wait, because if you cannot comprehend and do not get the right explanation for it, your problems will be accumulated as time goes. This eventually led you being unable to understand the subject. Obviously, as a student, never be late to a class. Having a good relationship with your lecturer helps you to ask questions and assistance from them. In addition, as a student, be respectful and helpful to your lecturer. It is in accordance to the teachings of Islam and the true essence and spirits of Islam. Tesi. After the class ended, help to clean up the whiteboard and carry the lecturer's heavy things to class or their room. Islam promotes students to be respectful and helpful to the educator because it creates blessing or barakat from Allah the All-Knowing, which means obtaining knowledge becomes smooth and easy. It makes walking the path of scholar and pursuit of knowledge becomes less difficult. I will elaborate on the blessings from Allah in the future chapter using my own life experience. The third element of tips towards becoming an excellent student is being prepared, or your attitude before the class. Reading the whole chapter once before entering your class where your lecturer teaches that chapter truly helps improve your understanding vastly. Reading it twice equals to better comprehension, and so on. It is advised If you discover something that you do not understand, circle it and put a question mark on it. When the class begins, as your lecturer reach to that section, listen to the lecturer's explanation. If you still do not understand it, raise your hand and ask the lecturer to elaborate further until you truly understand it. The element is extremely important towards contributing on my CGPA during my first semester. It did work in real life. I always read one day before the class begins or any time before lecturer teaches them during class. In addition, it is best to prepare for final examination as early as you possibly can. In the early tactics to obtain great academic results, I would recommend to study and prepare early before the final examination. It is also advisable to avoid last-minute studying method for the beginner level as a student. I do develop last-minute study method, but I believe that it would only be appropriate at more advanced level of student. Obviously, I will elaborate on this method too in the future chapter, so I will not explore them in this chapter. Generally speaking, everything that I include in this chapter were every tactics that I implemented to gain my first semester CGPA result, which I consider the tactics to be very crude and at beginner level of students. It is based on study hard and not study smart, which will be explored in upcoming chapters. My advice would be that you, the reader, should start implementing the beginner level tactics as a student, because it will help you to move towards the intermediate or advanced level of study tactics. It is ill-advised to start at intermediate or advanced level of study tactics by skipping the beginner methods, which is explored in this chapter. In my actual experience as a student throughout my lifetime, starting with beginner methods are essentially to develop the necessary skills for you to implement a more advanced method of study. It is similar to train your mental muscle in order to make them much stronger and much more effective in learning. By doing so, your mental muscle becomes more capable to achieve high-level skills that are simply impossible to anyone without a strong training of the basics. These basics are referring to having to read books numerous times until you manage to learn how to summarize the information into a condensed space. Again, this is an advanced level skill which I will touch more in the upcoming chapters. I guess, for now, those tactics mentioned and explored here should be enough for the beginners to learn and implement into their studies. If you tried everything mentioned here and still having problems to consistently putting them into practice, it means you are not ready for a more advanced tactics in studying. If you already know about them and have already been practicing them with ease, it is evident that you are ready for a more advanced strategies in studying. In addition, after reading all those study tactics in this chapter, but you do not feel any excitement about learning and knowledge, it seems that you do not possess the passion for learning just yet. Don't worry though, there is still time to develop the passion for knowledge. Thank you very much for listening for chapter 18. We will continue again in the next chapter and hope to see you there. Thank you for listening.